Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show from the CPRS Conference 2026. Powered by the Push to Play Network and DPRS Media Network, this episode highlights the power of leadership, mentorship, and growth in parks and recreation. Hosted by Chow, we sit down with Gus Hernandez, Director of Parks and Recreation for the city of Santa Fe Springs, as he shares his inspiring journey from youth baseball fields to leading a thriving community. Discover how coaching, high standards, and continuous learning shape impactful leaders and stronger communities. Let's dive in.
Hello, everyone. I am Adam Chow. I'm with the city of San Ramon, California, and I'm also on the California Park and Recreation Society on the state board as a president-elect. And today, I wanted to really talk to this person I have next to me, and this is Gus Hernandez from the city of Santa Fe Springs. I really just wanted to know more about him, and he's going to be serving on the state board with me in this upcoming year. So, Gus, hey, what's your story?
Right on, Adam. Thank you for having me here. So, yeah, I'm Gus Hernandez. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation with the city of Santa Fe Springs. I have been there for a little bit over 5 years now. It's an absolutely great community located about 14 miles south east of downtown LA. And so I started my career in Parks and Recreation, really as a young kid when I was participating in youth baseball. I started at the age of 4 over at Linwood Park. The staff there was absolutely amazing. Played all the way through Little League and then played through high school. I was able to develop a great passion for the game of baseball, something that I always reference back to today. And that provided an avenue for me to play college baseball. And so really in college baseball is where I learned a lot of leadership skills, and after college, I started working for the city of Linwood. And so I was coaching, I was reffing, I was chalking fields, and baseball always came back to my life somehow. And so now, having been in this field for 25 years, I really owe the city of Linwood and the Parks and Rec Department a great deal of gratitude, because not only did they provide a great space for me when I was a young kid, but they also helped me get my career started in Parks and Recreation. And now, thanks to you, Adam, I'm going to be serving on the state board. Adam asked me actually to run for the state board. He thought I'd be a good candidate. And I got to say, if it wasn't for Adam, I probably would not have thrown my name in the hat. I'm very humbled by his ask, and I'm happy to serve on this state board now.
Awesome. All right, Gus. So you're talking about baseball already. What's your team?
I got to go with the Dodgers. As a kid, I did like the Atlanta Braves for a second. You can't compete with the 1990s pitching lineup that the Braves had, and Maddox, Lavin, Smoltz, and a bunch of other guys. But being a hometown kid here from LA, I absolutely love the Dodgers.
All right. Well, we'll let that pass for right now, at least. We'll let that pass. So, but tell me a little bit more about your story about, you talked about your leadership through baseball and, getting involved. And so, you've had a 25-year career so far. I mean, that's obviously a long time. What's been your approach to be able to move forward with being a leader in the profession, whether it's within your city? What's something that you've learned kind of along the way?
Yeah, so being a player, you're constantly being coached, and I learned to take constructive criticism very well. I understood that coaches were not really there to criticize me; they were there to help me. They were there to help me get better as a player, and that's what I try to provide to my team. Is I try to coach them, try to provide them with support so that they can turn around and be great leaders, leading youth sports, leading special events and aquatics and all the great things that we do in our community.
All right, so coaching. I mean, I'm a softball coach for my 2 girls. One of my absolute favorite things to be able to do is be able to, work with young people, watch them grow, watch them move up, and just kind of improve. I know my philosophy was we get 1% better every single day. We incrementally improve. Just keep moving forward. What's your number one coaching tip or one coaching philosophy that you use, whether that you use with your team?
I would say I use one specific thing. I fall back on a lot of different things. I don't think every player can be coached the same way. And I think it's important to recognize that as a leader. Not everybody responds to different or the same coaching method the same way. Something that I've learned from my city manager and my boss now is he teaches us to not widen the plates. And so what he means by that is, in Little League, home plate is 17 inches wide. When you go to high school, home plate is 17 inches wide. When you go to professional baseball, it's 17 inches wide. And so it's important to not widen that plate because we don't want to lower our expectations for people. And it's important that we have high expectations of people. Otherwise, we're going to lower our standards and the quality of what we do is going to get diminished.
Wow, I mean that's brilliant. Actually, I really like that. Don't widen the plate. Keep those expectations right where they need to be. I mean, I think that goes for a lot of us, especially in supervisor positions when we're working with our teams, to making sure that they know what we want from them. How are we able to do that? How do we coach them as we go along? So now that we've talked about your coaching a little bit, your baseball background and how you've done some of that, talk about your career experience a little bit and how you've been able to move up. And you're a director at Santa Fe Springs right now. What did that look like for you? And how does coaching look like for you within your agency?
Absolutely. So yeah, I spent 7 years in the city of Linwood, doing anything and everything that I was asked to do. And I kind of took that approach from playing baseball as well. I was a pitcher from high school into college, and sometimes I would start, sometimes I'd come off the bullpen. But no matter what they asked me to do, I always tried to perform it to the best of my ability. And that's something that I learned in college baseball as well. Is there really is two things that we control, and that's our own attitude and effort. Whether you're starting or coming off the bench, it's important that you exert that same effort and you have a positive attitude about it. So I spent 7 years with the city of Linwood. After college, I went to the city of Huntington Park, where I spent 7 years there as well. Was promoted to a supervisor during that time. And then I took a supervisor position with the city of Chino, which was an absolutely phenomenal experience working with the people in Chino. Took a supervisor position there, spent about 4 years there, and then most recently I took the jump to Santa Fe Springs. Got hired there as a manager and became the director there a little over 2 years ago. And throughout this whole time, one of the things that's always been important is being involved in professional organizations. I was involved down here in the South with the Southern California Municipal Athletic Federation, which provides training opportunities for sports staff, and they help organize youth sports tournaments as well as adult sports tournaments. But really being involved in SMAF kind of opened my eyes to a different world that was beyond my city. When I got to the city of Chino, they were very supportive of professional development, and they encouraged me to get involved in CPRS. Chino was absolutely phenomenal because they encourage all of their professionals to not only attend conference, but to get involved in CPRS, to volunteer in committees. I remember my first experience working here or with the city of Chino was about 10 years ago. And I got the first opportunity to attend this conference here in Long Beach. And if it wasn't for the city of Chino, I probably would have never attended a CPRS conference. So I'm very grateful for that encouragement and the support that they provide for our professional development.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so you talked about how you've grown up, and grown up. We've all grown up in the profession, right? I mean, you've been here for 25 years. I've been here 21 years. And times change, right? And different positions require different skills and at different points. And through your development that you've had with CPRS and other places, is there anything that how has the progression of your leadership changed from when you were, starting out in Linwood and, what you're at right now? Has your leadership changed? Has your outlook changed? Have you learned anything that you think that you need to use in different places?
My leadership, I think, has definitely evolved over the years. I don't particularly necessarily change things with intentionality. But it definitely does evolve, and it evolves with the people that I surround myself with. Right, I'm surrounded by some great leaders on the state board now, on the admin section, and so I always pick up one or two things from every professional that I interact with. Like Jim Wheeler talks a lot about the 10-5, and he talked about that about 3 years ago at one of these state conferences. And I went back and I implemented that with my team. What 10-5 means is, he teaches all of his staff that when a staff member is within 10 feet of any patron in the park, they stop what they're doing and they acknowledge that person with a head nod or a smile. And when they approach that person within 5 feet, they greet them, say, "Hey, I'm Gus. I'm your park attendant here for today." That provides a great experience and a very welcoming environment to people in your parks.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the things that we learn help us throughout our careers in a number of different ways. And so you're stepping up onto the CPRS state board as a section representative. So that's going to be a little bit higher level of leadership for you, one of these volunteer positions in our state organization. What does that mean for you to be able to move into that position? I know it's something that you haven't done before. You've served as a president for the admin section, and you've done a number of different things in CPRS. But what are you looking for? How do you think that your leadership will be able to help out?
Yeah, no, I mean, first and foremost, our state board is phenomenal. I had my first board meeting on Monday, and it was just a very welcoming environment. I really appreciate that. The culture around that board is very welcoming, and I know that that's years in the making. So I'm very fortunate to have walked into a team that has established itself among one of the best teams, not just in the state, but probably across the country. And so what I'm looking at is I really just want to continue to advance the profession. This profession that has given me so much, not just personally, but professionally. It provided me with a living, but Parks and Recreation is just so important in communities. And, we're not essential, but we are extremely vital to community and to the health of the communities. And so I want to make sure that we continue to provide the trainings, the resources to continue to develop our professionals in our field so that we can go back and have great communities so that our residents have great quality of life, and so that we create communities that thrive.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we're all here to do, and that's why we have such big passion. And so many people within our field are so passionate about what it is that we do. When we come to, we're at the CPRS conference right now, and we talk about what we do and why we do it, and why we have the passion we do it. And really, it's just engaging people and getting people energized about why we do what we do, and bringing it back to our communities just makes our communities so much better in so many different ways. And so, Gus, what's one thing you've learned at a CPRS conference or taken back? Obviously, you talked about Jim's, 10-5. What's something else that you've really learned at a CPRS conference that you've been able to take back with you that's helped you've been able to implement in your community?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, I actually attended a session done by the city of Watsonville. Their director, Nick Kalubakib, who is also going to be on this podcast soon. But his session was on alternative revenue methods. And so he talked about a sales tax measure that they helped pass. And so it just so happened that right around the same time, our city found out that we had an exclusion for sales tax, and we were able to go 0.25% above the sales tax threshold. And so in having conversations with our city manager, we determined that now was the best time to do that. And I was very fortunate that my city manager really trusted me and put me in a position to lead that initiative to put a sales tax on the ballot. And that sales tax was passed in November of 2025. And so we're hoping to improve our parks, to modernize our parks, to fix our fire stations, to really modernize the community of Santa Fe Springs to that sales tax. And throughout that whole process, I actually kept in contact with Nick and bounced some ideas off of him, and was able to see what worked in his community and try to adapt some of the same things that I learned from that into the sales tax initiative that we passed in Santa Fe Springs.
It's amazing the things that we do that, Parks and Rec encompasses so many different things, right? We could be talking about playground services, or we can be talking about senior services. We can be talking about so many different things, but, moving into that next level, right? Sales tax measures. Where else would you have learned that, and what, at a Park and Rec conference, you'd be talking about, sales tax measures. How do we do it? How do we help support our communities in so many different ways? And I think that's the great thing that we have the opportunity to do, and have such a great network in so many other places to have those learning chances, having those opportunities to grow and develop and move up in our careers, as you have, so significantly, through the people that you've met, through the development that you've had, and all those sorts of things.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. In Parks and Rec, we do a little bit of everything, and it's important for us professionals to make sure that we're very well-rounded. We have to be jack of all trades and masters of all sometimes, and so it's really important to ensure that we're becoming well-rounded professionals. And early in my career, I was actually just a kind of a sports guy, right? I was a sports coordinator, and worked in sports, did youth baseball and all kinds of different sports. And a director one time asked me, "Hey, I need you to do after-school programming," and I couldn't believe it. I only wanted to do sports, and that was probably one of the best experiences of my life. Having changed roles and really understanding that my skills were needed elsewhere, right? And so, after that change, I became extremely receptive to taking on different roles, and just learning so that I can provide great services to the residents that we serve.
Yeah, and that's so true, right? So we come into the field and we're like, oh, I want to do this one thing. For me, I wanted to be a team coordinator, and I was, working with teams. I was like, this is the one thing I want to do. This is my dream job. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. But, to be able to move up and be able to learn so many other areas, program areas, that you can be able to expand your career, expand your mind, your decision making, your critical thinking. I've gone, like you, moved around a little bit. I've done a number of different things, done teams, done summer camps and youth services. I'm currently doing arts and marketing, things that I didn't expect to be doing, but learning so much through the process, and learning so much through that, and having great networks like you and so many other people that I can really lean on, talk to, and have sorts of conversations when I need them. It's such a powerful thing. It's such a powerful process to engage that, be able to use those people to improve your leadership, right? And that's kind of where we started with this, your coaching, and how do we use all the things that we've learned over the years that you and I have had together, how to be able to bring up that next generation of people. How do we use that leverage? So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, Gus, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you. I've loved hearing your story and hearing about where you came from and your baseball background and history. So thank you all. We appreciate you for listening today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product? Growing your presence in public spaces? Targeting cities, counties, or departments? DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.